Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is Comics, and welcome to another indie comic review. Now, today is a very special day, a very special day of reviewing because I am finally reviewing a comic that I've been looking at for a while and wasn't sure if I was going to get it or not. Finally decided, you know what? I skipped out on some indie comics this month and probably for the next couple of months because I'm not really excited about the two comics that the Rippaverse has right now. I'm not excited for Bloodruth because it's written by the Saskas and I really didn't like Yaira. Then what's coming out immediately after that? Yaira 2. Exactly what I wanted. But so I'm skipping out on that and I've decided that I'm going to try out Terror in the Trenches, as the title would suggest. Now, this comic, why this comic, right? Because Von Klaus, Rise Again Comics, guy has like a bunch of different comics out. In fact, if you go to his page, I'm going to open up this tab right. I'm going to go back in the tab real quick if it would let me. Yeah, you can see the bookstore. He's got this Kataru Witch Hunter, which looks really good. I love the interior pages just already, just by looking at it. It has more of a cartoony style as well. You got this, whatever this thing. Oh, the Art of Von Klaus, which is like a little showcase of like stuff like that from several works, I'm sure. Monster MD, which also looks really interesting. All of them kind of have some similar art style stuff going on here. I don't know if they're all in the same connected universe. These two look like they could be. Monster MD and Terror for sure. They kind of look like similar time periods. Katario looks a little different, but could definitely still be in the same universe, but maybe just not directly connected. Um, and I mean, like, he's got like 3 different series going on right now with some other stuff, tons of merchandise and everything like that, right? I guess I'm giving him a shout out here. Um, but the main thing that drew my attention was Terror in the Trenches, mainly because the concept of it was really interesting to me. The concept of it, and not only that, but the art is really interesting. But let me just say before we get really into like the deep dive of the stuff and everything, um, the main reason I even found out about Von Klaus was because he featured his my Yaira review on his video, and someone commented and told me about it. And then after him, I think Van Sciver did it, and then someone else, some blonde lady, I can't remember her name, does a podcast with a bunch of other people, and that's how I got introduced to the guy. And so from there, I was like, oh, let's check out his comics. Let's see, he's talking a lot of smack about the Riververse. Let's see where he stands. Turns out, I see this thing. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, he's doing pretty good for himself because this actually looks really, really good. And something that obviously Vonster, he likes to get in trouble on Twitter. He likes to get himself in trouble on Twitter. He's always beefing with Rippaverse fan pages and other people too. I mean, it doesn't matter what walk of life you are. Like, he likes to beef. That's something he likes to do. And look, sometimes it's fun to beef. I like to beef with Star Wars fans because I used to be one, and I hate what it's turned into. So I understand the want to beef with people on Twitter. Sometimes it's really fun. Trust me, it's really fun. But sometimes sometimes it doesn't look great. And Vonster definitely gets into the Rippaverse discussion a lot more heated and spicy than I do. I like to look at things, I guess, with a little more benefit of a doubt and stuff like that. That's why I don't necessarily think I don't think they used AI to make the Horseman art. I think maybe there was an AI reference that was used to draw it, which I still am kind of iffy about. But it's mainly like I mainly try to look at things more positively. I try to look at like, okay, here's the positives of this, here's the negatives of this, and I'm gonna talk about why I like it or why I don't like it. That's why despite the fact that Gooding, a lot of people in the comment section seem to not agree with what I had to say about Gooding. I still stand by the fact that I do like the story. I agree with the issues of the pacing. I agree with a lot of the critiques and of course the critiques I made in it. But overall, I thought Gooding was good. But with all the Twitter bullcrap out of the way, let's not focus on this. Let's focus on the actual terror stuff. I wanted to get that out of the way because because that's the least important thing here. That's the least important thing. But Vonster, he's been watching my videos. I've been watching his videos. I really appreciate the shout out from way back. And let me just tell you right now, this review is not going to be biased because of that. I'm going to look at this as objectively as I try to look at it with the Rippaverse stuff. I'm going to give it the same fair treatment here. I'm reading this comic for the enjoyment of it, and I'm going to tell you if this is enjoyable. So, with that all out of the way, let's talk about the actual comic. Now, the artwork. I often don't talk about the artwork, and I've probably said this in a review before. I don't talk about the artwork as much in my reviews as I do the writing because artwork is very subjective. It's hard to kind of put a pin on what is good and what is bad art because you may look at, the stuff, and this is the thing that, I just don't really want to invite is art comparison into my comment section. I want to talk more about the story and the comic as a whole. But you may look at like this art and you may just not like the style of it, and because of that you think, whether it's subconsciously or like intently, that you think the art is bad or you just don't like the art, and because of that you hold it in a lower place than maybe the Rippaverse stuff. Maybe you like the Rippaverse art style, but you don't like this. Or the vice versa. You could like this way more than the Rippaverse stuff, and because of that you think it looks better. And I am in that camp. I think this artwork is better, subjectively speaking. I think it's better than the Rippaverse comics. I love this art style, and the reason why I went with Terror in the Trenches above anything else in Von Klaus's list of comics is because it looks like Batman the Animated Series, or more specifically, it looks like the comic tie-ins for the DCAU era of Batman. If you look at this and let me just see if I can find a page scrolling through here. Yes, if you look at this and compare it to Batman, you can start to see the comparisons. Very easy to make. Very, very easy to make comparisons when looking at this stuff and seeing this. Now, I actually think this is at a higher quality than some of this, but the intention here, and this is where subjectivity comes into play a lot. The intention with these comics is to make it to look like the cartoon, and often a little bit more detailed than the cartoon, and it's something that I go with. With Little Miss Steel, I try to make my comics look like a cartoon from the late 90s to early 2000s era. That is my goal with the art of it. And you may look at that and say, I don't like it. It's not as detailed as other comics. It's not my thing. And that's fine. That's totally up to you. You can have that opinion. That I'm not telling you have to think one way or the other. But what I will say is that I think this art, wrong tab. This art looks phenomenal. I love the style. I love the detail of it. Everything about it. I think I'm praising this art more than the Rippaverse stuff because I just simply love this style more than the Rippaverse stuff. The Rippaverse, for the most part, looks pretty solid. Yes, there are some errors, and I'm sure I could find some errors in this if I really nitpick, but I'm not doing that. And most of the time, to be honest, whenever I'm looking at whenever I'm making points to point out some errors in Rippaverse stuff, oftentimes before I notice it, I see it on like Twitter. Someone shared like a mess up or something, and that's usually how I spot it first. Now sometimes I will spot it myself, and I'll point it out in the video if it's egregious, like the Horseman hand, infamous Horseman hand. But the artwork here is just phenomenal. The artwork, I love the style. This is what I'm looking at, and this frame especially. I mean, come on. You look at this frame, and then, look at the episodes where Batman is at his parents' grave, and tell me there's not a striking similarity in the art styles. And I don't know if this is intentional. I don't remember any time I talked with Vaughn, if this was intentional to make it look like Batman the Animated Series or any of the DCAU stuff. But it really looks like this character would fit right in with, a still frame from the Justice League cartoon or something like that. I feel like it would really just all these characters will fit in. And I think what's doing it the most, I think, is the mask. The mask just make me think of Robin. Like, does just not just look like a Robin mask here. That's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, I think. But the style overall is very similar. There's a little bit of thick outlines, which I love to use in my artwork on some of the stuff. Not overall like I do. I definitely favor thick outlines more. But there's definitely a lot of stuff that's similar to what you would find in like the comics and stuff. Obviously, this is a lot more bloody and a lot more vulgar, but it's obviously it's going for an older audience, but it's using an art style that appeals to those who might have watched the Batman cartoons and Superman and Justice League cartoons growing up, right? Like me, it appeals to me. It's doing its job if that's what the intent was, and even if the intent wasn't that, it still fits. And it still worked on me. But yeah, like overall, I think the artwork is just fantastic. The character designs are really cool. All this stuff is just like so cool. The way the clouds look, like this shot is crazy. This shot is totally mental. And I've talked about the art about this longer than I have any other comic review I have, and that's again bias. That's me being subjective. I love the art style, and because of that, I'm gonna love the art overall more. Honestly, the art could be less quality detailed than the Rippaverse stuff, and I would still probably prefer it because just simply because I love the style so much more. Like this stuff is just I could eat this stuff up for forever. I could just I could just analyze every single frame of this forever. But that's not the point of the video. The point is to review the comic, and more than just artwork, I have to talk about the story. First, before I move on from this, I will say the directing of the artwork, the directing of the shots is very smooth. It feels very fluid. It feels like this is just begging to get animated, honestly. This is begging to get animated is how I feel about it. And that's, to me, that's almost what like I look for in a comic, is for it to be so fluid that I can, like, my brain, my imagination can fill in the gaps between the artworks and the pages, the panels, right? And the directing of the panels is really good. And Monica McCagney, I think is how you say it, and Tiago Barça. Monica did the lines and everything, and then Tiago Barça did the coloring. Fantastic stuff. Eric Weathers did the text as well. All of it just looks really good. The final product is just really, really solid, and I love it. But now let's focus on the writing, which is what I love to dive a little bit more deep into, because there's a bit more objectivity to writing with that compared to art, right? And that's where I like to really go into and try and pick apart, right? And Vonster is very vocal about his critiques for movies, comics, especially the Rippaverse stuff. He, like I said earlier, he gets into beef with Twitter fan pages of the Rippaverse. I don't think I've seen him get into beef with Eric July or Chuck Dixon or the Soskers or anything like that. I haven't seen any kind of beef one-on-one on Twitter with that or anything. It seems to be just fan pages, and most of the fan pages are a little over the top, a little overly defensive, I think. But it's I don't know, maybe they're just trying to save face or something. But they're definitely a little overly defensive, I think. But enough about the Twitter beef. Let's talk about the writing. Vonster likes to talk about writing critiques and everything, what he would do with certain things and everything like that. Let's talk about the writing of the characters. So, Black Terror, Robert, the main character here, borrows. Speaking of DC earlier, borrows a lot from DC. His main weapon of choice is this fear gas, which is just right up Scarecrow. It's just straight up. It is Scarecrow's main thing. And the difference is, of course, is that this guy is a hero, but not entirely. So it's kind of going off of the fact that, after World War II, Americans and everyone who, fought for the Allies, obviously, were portrayed as heroes. And they should be. They should be because of the evil that they fought against. But during war, there is also wrong done on many sides. Many things are committed that should never be committed, and there's some nuance to that. There's some gray to some areas, especially with there's a lot of stuff about what happened after 9/11 that I'm not gonna get into talk about. That's very heavily debated, but overall. This guy is seen as a hero, but deep down he doesn't feel like he is because the gas kind of makes him go a little insane, right? He goes a little insane in the membrane, right? He's huffing the galaxy gas a little hard in this time of war, and it makes him turn into an apex predator, according to what he says in his inner monologues that go throughout this entire comic. The setting, 1975 New York. Age is weird in this story. I'll explain that later. 1975 New York just becomes a war zone, all because the remnants of the can I say Nazi on YouTube? Whatever. I'm not getting paid for this. I can say whatever I want. Nazis. Basically the remnants of the Nazi Germany and what becomes of it is after him specifically. And or at least it seems that way from Volume 1. It feels very personal, and the main character, Robert, here describes it as a personal attack because there's a really calm scene before everything really kicks off, and it's such a good scene. It's him talking with an old war vet who's probably just as old, maybe a little bit older than he is, called the Duke. And obviously it looks different. The galaxy gas prevents him. I know it's not called galaxy gas, but I'm just calling it that because it's a meme. The gas, gives him youthful, at least appearance. It probably lengthens his life as well. And it seems like multiple characters are huffing that stuff to keep their youth. Maybe not to keep it. Maybe not with the intent of staying alive longer, but maybe it's just a side effect of it. But he's got this old war vet, the Duke. He's got a prosthetic leg. And they're having a really good conversation about it and everything. And the Duke is giving him a lot of encouraging words like, "Hey man, no matter what you think about yourself, you are a hero, and you need to carry yourself that way. A lot of people look up to you." And he's at this point, 30 years after the war, he's returned to pharmaceutical stuff, which tells me that this guy's got to be in his 60s at least for him to have been a pharmacist, become the Black Terror in World War II, and then return to pharmacy 30 years after. Been back doing that for 30 years after the war. It's just this guy's got to be at least 60. But the Duke is a very, very good character. It humanizes Terror. It makes you really feel for him whenever the explosion happens. When the explosive entrance the character Detonetta makes. It makes you feel really bad, even though you've only had like 4 or 5 pages with Robert and the Duke. You really get an idea that these guys go way back. They're really great friends, and to see him die like that, it's sad. There's also the inner monologue kind of hints at his deceased wife. I believe she's deceased, and he's talking to her like she is, at least in this inner monologue. And there's a lot of humanity to this character. There's a lot of monstrosity to this character as well, showing the flashbacks of several things that he does, including one of those sins causing the conflict that we're seeing now, which is very good. I think having a character that's haunted by his past, even though people look up to him as a hero, a haunting action that he took in the past is catching up to him, and he doesn't even know it yet. He doesn't even know that's why this is happening yet. But it's revealed in a very, very cool way, which I'll get to as I'm continuing this. But the dialogue is super well done here. I think the dialogue between Duke and him is really good, especially the callback. What the Duke wants, the Duke gets. That's all I'm going to say. Spoilers, by the way. I should have said that at the beginning, but it's kind of obvious. And I've talked about the inner monologue several times so far. And I want to... The only thing about it, to me, and this is my first, I guess, line of criticism for this, is, there's so much monologue, and part of it is, most of it, I think, is really insightful to the character. It gives you an idea of his mental space that you wouldn't get if you didn't have a monologue. At least not how the story is currently written. Maybe it could be rewritten to not have to rely on an inner monologue, but this is the type of storytelling that Vaughn has chosen. And the the monologue at some point along the middle of the comic becomes a little repetitive. He starts, referring to himself as the terror. He starts telling himself he's like the monster or whatever, that he's the fear, everyone's fear. And he says that like multiple times. I think he says it like twice. Once at the beginning when you're kind of getting introduced to his character at the beginning flashback, which is a great way to hook you into the book by showing you the action first. It's a really well done way to do that. And then it kind of repeats itself a little bit in the middle as he's becoming the Black Terror again, as he's putting back on the costume and getting ready for war again. And it's I think it the main thing, and this is a comparison I'll make to the Horseman actually. The Horseman, the reason you get the inner monologue throughout the entire book is because he's writing in his journal. And that is a simple but effective way of just telling me why I'm seeing this. Why am I getting this inner monologue? Why am I in this character's head throughout the entire book, as well as having scenes with him having dialogue with others, right? It's a simple way of doing it. And the question I ask is, why am I getting so much inner monologue from Black Terror throughout this entire thing? And the best thing that I could surmise, it's not straight up told to me, the best thing I can just surmise is he's trying to just the mentality of it, he's trying to just tell himself that he's trying to convince himself that he's not a monster and not doing a great job of it. But I also kind of look at it potentially as a form of like PTSD a little bit, because the flashbacks are often intercut between moments of battle or moments of intensity. For instance, whenever Detonetta explodes, which I thought she was dead, but apparently I think she's alive because there's some stuff that suggests that, and I'll get to it. But the moment of that immediately goes into a cutscene, an explosive battle. I said cutscene, flashback of an explosive battle from the past in the 40s, and similar things happen throughout it. During the battle that's currently taking place in New York, there's a moment where it cuts back to battle in the 40s in Germany, what I assume is Germany, and it's done pretty well. I think the timing of the flashbacks is done. I think the flashbacks are used just enough to that it doesn't feel overwhelming. But the inner monologue sometimes I feel like might at some points overstay its welcome. However, I will say, because of the Batman animated series art style, I kind of read his voice as the late Kevin Conroy, his performance as Bruce in Batman, and it fits pretty well, especially when he's telling himself, I am the terror, I am the nightmare, or whatever. It kind of fits with Batman, I'm not gonna lie. Now that, of course, is not related to the review. That's just how I read it. That was my experience, and I wanted to put that out there. It works. If you have not read this comic and you get it after this video, read his voice as Batman. I think it works. But the story is pretty well paced. Like I said, the flashbacks provide some pretty good moments of action to show. It's not just telling, right? And you're not being told how insane he is whenever he's up on this gas, whenever he's huffing it. You're shown how insanely dangerous he is, to the point of going too far. And it's not just that. The tunnels under New York are explained. They were used for war times and stuff. Now it's something that he uses for his what his wife called the gas chamber, which is a name for sure. But it's basically his lair. It's where he's got all this stuff. As he's gearing up, you kind of see how he's avoiding the war zone that's going on the surface, is because he's using these tunnels to go back and forth, and that's explained pretty well. It also explains how the gas works. It's not just a fear toxin. It also, like, him inhaling it specifically causes him to become like super strong, super durable. And it seems like he has to repeatedly dose himself to get to this point. And now that he's done that, now anytime he huffs it, he becomes super strong. But it's pretty well done, I think. It's pretty well done, the information given, and the demonstration of his power, and this is the most important thing. This is really where I was another moment where I was impressed with the writing. Was this entire comic is dedicated to basically introducing this character, how strong he is with this gas, and how much of a terror he is and everything. And even against soldiers that are armored and built to kind of defeat him, he's still able to mop the floor with them, right? And all of this is done so that by the end of the comic, when the gas is starting to wear off and he needs to huff up some more, the sniper character Lockshot snipes it out of his hand and does this twice. And basically now all this time being hyped up, oh yeah, he's basically indestructible. He's unstoppable whenever he's on this stuff. He's just a rabid animal. All of that build up to say, okay, now what? Now you don't have that power. What are you going to do now? And what an excellent cliffhanger that is, I think. That is a good cliffhanger. And the other character, which is called Lady Satan, which is apparently a name given to her by the German soldiers because they thought she was the devil. Very, I guess, earned. She's not evil. You know, she's on the side of good, but she's got some witch kind of powers, something to do with blood, something to do with guns as well. She's very good at shooting with her pistols and everything like that. She's got some kind of magic going on. I'm not exactly sure what it is entirely, but perhaps I'll get some more information in these character cards, which I'll show you in a minute. But the main thing with her, it gives her backstory a little bit. One more critique: she kind of just shows up out of nowhere. She hadn't been shown really any point up until even in the flashbacks throughout the first half of the book. There's like not really a point where she is shown. It's all kind of focused on the Black Terror as a character. It's not really showing Celeste Skarloff, which is her regular name, Karloff, excuse me. It doesn't really show her in the flashbacks, and I think if you're going to have her show up here, maybe she should have been shown in the flashbacks. You know, maybe if fighting alongside him, she should have been shown. Perhaps there's a lore reason why this couldn't be done. Perhaps during the battles that they showed in the flashbacks, she was somewhere else. I don't know. But it would have been nice to have this character be shown beforehand. Maybe she wasn't even alive yet. It seems like she is, and I think she's just as old as he is. She's just been huffing the gas too. It shows her huffing the gas at some point, I believe, because she's got like there's like a delusion. The enemy is seeing her as like this monster character with gas leaking out of her mouth. So that suggests to me that she's also huffing it. But her power set is completely different. Good design on her too. Good design on all the characters. Honestly, I love the designs on all the characters. And I'll go ahead and show you the cards now. There's some really good detail in these. It's super cool. I think that it comes with this. And $30, you might look at that and say that's expensive for a comic. And while yes, it is expensive. I saw them initially started out as $35. Trust me, I didn't like paying that. They have Rippaverse has dropped the price a lot. I don't know if you noticed this, but Rippaverse has dropped the price a lot. These come with the book for $30, so that definitely justifies the price a lot more. And just more great artwork, just more great stuff, more details about the characters that I'm gonna read after this. I didn't want to read these before the review because I didn't want any of the information in here interfering with my information from the comic. But yeah, just like great designs, man. This stuff is just great. I mean, it's just really, really good. I enjoy seeing all this stuff. The design, the attention to detail. Comes with a freaking poster, double-sided poster, and what appears to be a sticker, a coat patch as well, and this little pamphlet thing that held, folder thing that held all the cards I just showed you. So I mean, it comes with a whole lot of stuff, and I'm gonna enjoy looking through all of that. And to me, that justifies the price more. $30. Again, it's still expensive for a comic, but I understand when you're paying professional artists to get involved with this stuff. Obviously, you have to make sure they're paid, and the best way to do that is to have the price of the comic reflect that. And again, I don't mind paying for a quality comic if I'm really enjoying it. 2, I can tell a lot of effort was put into it, and 3, I can expect more in the future. And the second one is already in development, maybe not long in development, but pretty close to getting done because the second campaign began a little while back for funding it. This is a campaign fed, not campaign fed, a crowdfunding project for this comic, and as well as the others, I believe that Vonster has. But yeah, great cliffhanger, great end to the comic. One thing I gotta get out of the way for the rest of this is the side characters. I already talked about Celeste Karloff. Her character is really interesting. The Deadnetta, I think the reason why I think she's not dead after blowing herself up is because there's a card of her in here. That just tells me that she's definitely not dead and she's going to come back and keep exploding, which I find really cool. I think that's a cool power. Characters that just explode, that are just full of chaotic energy, are always fun to watch. Reference Lugnut from Transformers Animated. The glorious leader Megatron! And he just like blows himself up with this nuke arm. Absurd. I love the character. But Deadnetta, really cool. Sawback is terrifying. I mean, the guy is just like massive. He sends out a bunch of like bear traps and stuff, it looks like. Like it's the guy is just like a monster. But the standout to me, and the thing that finally got me to buy this comic was after Christmas, because I had to get all the gifts for my family and stuff. But after Christmas, I was like, I'm going to buy this comic. And the reason why is this artwork posted by Vonster on Twitter, riseagain. Still not calling it X because Twitter is a better name. I'm sorry. But this artwork right here told me everything I needed to know about Volume 2 and why I knew this was going to be some good artwork. This directing of the panels of the artwork here is great. Zoom out of the aftermath of this battle in New York. Zoom in to Lockshot. This girl with eyes that can see miles and miles away. Insane. And she's like the most accurate sniper ever. The eyes tells you immediately what's going on. Oh, she's got enhanced eyes. I don't know anything about this character, but immediately from the artwork, I'm like, okay, I know everything I need to know about what this character does and how dangerous she is. Let's see if she's a good guy or bad guy or not. Okay, she's going against Black Terror. She's a bad guy. That is not good. He's already been shot. And it doesn't look very good. Now, I didn't know anything about his powers at this point yet, other than he has the fear gas. But already, this pits him as the underdog. Page 3, he's trying to, he's stitching himself up, but he's also got a knife. He's trying to get a view of the sniper, and immediately it's shot out of his hand before he can get a good view. But at least he learns where the sniper is at. Ricocheted bullet, probably somehow she knew it would ricochet and hit the gas thing. She probably knew it, or she didn't, and it's just a happy little accident. The shot of the shell from the bullet flying out of the chamber as she's reloading. Great. Explosion. He's hurt even more. The sniper is blowing bubble gum while she's shooting. And it's still not any better for the guy. Like, this is fantastic. Katie did. That's the other YouTuber who watched my review of Yaira. I see it in the comments here. But anyway, fantastic pages. The directing of it, everything is so fluid. It's so well done. Everything just looks great. Again, I'm biased because I love this art style, and I've talked about why I don't talk about the art very often whenever it comes to reviews, because it's largely subjective. Oh yeah, the barrel coming out of it's popping out of the frames. The barrel of the gun's popping out of the frames. Anyway, enough gushing about this. I'm sorry. Says he's not going to talk a lot about the art in the review. Talks about the art forever. This review is already long enough. But this character I find very interesting. This character, I don't think Sawback is going to be a character that might have any sort of depth to him. He seems like just an instrument of destruction. She, I feel like there's a little more to her. she does not seem so objectively evil. She seems to, more than Sawback, seems to be more, uh, uh, I guess, childlike to the main villain, uh, the Doctor, who is responsible for creating all these characters here. And what's interesting is that I mentioned earlier that the main antagonist is born out of a mistake that Black Terror made in the 40s, and that's nearly killing a doctor who, I don't know if he was a Nazi or not, don't know entirely. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but either way, he was a doctor and not a soldier. And Terror is about to kill him, and taking the mask off him sort of makes him realize, like, holy crap, I should not be killing this guy. And I think that might be one of the moments, if not the moment, that made Black Terror retire and become a pharmacist again. But that doctor loses an eye but survives. All these years later, he's creating these mutant soldiers, including the sniper, it seems, and Sawback, and basically and Detonetta as well, I believe. I'm at least led to assume. And he has a very great intro scene, because the flashback that shows him being brutalized by Black Terror immediately leads into current day. He's set up in some sort of church, this massive old church, I guess in New York, and he's operating on a wounded soldier who's lost an arm, it seems. And there's a really great, well done scene that just describes his personality perfectly. He's cold, does not seem to have an ounce of care in him at all. Whenever the cops try and tell him, like, hey, get down here, you Nazi scum, he's not even saying, like, I'm not a Nazi, I'm not racist or anything like that. I'm just evil, bro. and I like an evil villain. I like a villain that knows he's evil. I've written characters like that. Saul from Demonico, my first work of fiction that I wrote. He's just a pure evil guy. There's no redemption for that dude. Look at him. He's red with horns and black and yellow eyes. He's basically visually the devil. There's no way he gets redeemed. So I love a good evil villain like Palpatine and stuff like that, to make a Star Wars comparison. Just nothing wrong with a good pure evil villain every now and then. Nothing wrong with sympathetic villains either. I think there's a good balance between the two. And this guy just seems like a lot of fun. This guy seems like he's really pissed at Black Terror for taking his eye and doing all the stuff he did back in the 40s. So all these years, 30 years later, he's still alive, probably huffing that gas, and ready to take some revenge. So, as I've said, fantastic. I thought the comic was fantastic. I haven't really done ratings like 10 out of 10s or anything like that. Like, I haven't really done that for all of my reviews. Maybe I'll do a video of the back catalog of reviews and stuff that I've already done and kind of put it up on a scale. But I honestly would put the small complaints I have about it really don't take away from the experience of it. I was fully immersed in it, in the story of it. I would honestly give this a 9 out of 10. I think this is a 9 out of 10 for sure. I think it's a very, very well made, well drawn, well written, well lettered comic. It is just the right amount of length. It's not too long, not too short. Of course, I wanted to keep reading more because the cliffhanger was really good, and it was designed to do that, of course. And yeah, the only thing is, I'll say, like, maybe the main character isn't all that relatable. He's not super relatable, right? But he's clearly a flawed character, and that's the main thing. It's like, a character doesn't necessarily have to be super relatable for you to kind of understand the character and like the character. It can also just be a flawed character, a character who's made mistakes, a character who's lost. We can relate to loss, right? I think most people can relate to, everyone can relate to losing someone close to you. whether it's recent or in the past, for many years or a few years. And I think most of us can relate to that. That humanizes him very well, as I said at the beginning of the review. It really does a good job of humanizing him, especially with Duke. And again, I root for the character. I want him to win, but I also don't want him to become so consumed by the gas again that he becomes the monster he fears, which is ironic because his power set is causing people to fear the thing they fear most, to see the things they fear most. It's well done. That's all I gotta say. Like, the writing is very well done. I'll do a tier list comparing it to all the other reviews I've done, like the Riververse stuff, Screecher. I'm gonna do more reviews of Screecher as well, and I'll do like a tier list thing of everything and just kind of put it up there. So, but with all that being said, that's all I got for today. Thanks to the ones who bought Little Miss Steel physical prints. I really appreciate that. I'm only selling it locally, so I'm not willing to give out the location of anything on YouTube just yet. Maybe in the future. I have another event coming up that I'm going to be selling comics at, and that's going to be an even bigger event, it sounds like, so with attendance and everything. So hopefully from that I will be able to sell even more. I hope I sell out of them. I only ordered 20 of the first and second edition, first and second volumes of it. So if I sell all 40 of them, I've made my money back and more, plenty more. So I definitely will order more if I sell. I mean, if I sell half of them, I'm gonna order more, because if I sell half of them, I made my money back and more already. But if I sell all of them, that's gonna be awesome, because I had to buy 6 tires for my cars, a plumbing issue, and vet for my dog. So, not fun. In a span of like 2 months. and Christmas. But anyways, thanks so much for watching and reading the comic. Little Miss Steel 3 is coming very soon. It's already almost halfway done. I'm planning on releasing that no later than the end of March. Hold me to that. Hold me accountable to that. I promised that I would deliver Little Miss Steel 2 by the end of November. I did it. Hold me to it. Hold me accountable to this. I will meet the deadlines I set, unless something diabolical happens. I will meet the deadline. So, thanks so much for watching. Till next time, peace out.